Well,
Yeah,
it's good to
but
be back to you today, Len, on this Martin
yeah,
Luther King Day today. Happy Martin Luther
absolutely.
King Jr. Dr. King Day.
Thank you.
Obviously, it is a very important day if for American history, anyways, to acknowledge
Hmm.
obviously the suppression of a group of individuals, an ethnic group of individuals, obviously in America, and how important that is to recognize that, not just to continue, with that type of sentiment, but to remember the actions, remember the oppression, simply because the most important thing for remembering anything like that is not, to give it attention, but to give it so that we understand the patterns and the habits so that we can avoid it happening again, right, in the future. Because if you don't remember history, then that never happened. That never happened to black people. Black people were never slaves in America, right? And
Right.
that's where people lose track of things, where they go, look, oh my gosh, slavery wasn't invented in America, but it definitely was a part of American history, and we can't forget what allowed us as a country to do it. But
Yeah. And I think to that
e-
point, you bring it up. It's a really good point because what today signifies is the importance of fighting for a right that everyone should have. And sometimes when you fight for that right, sometimes you encounter resistance. Well, all the time you encounter resistance. And certainly Martin Luther King wasn't the first to do it. Frederick Douglass even said that no change in power comes without resistance.
I feel like social media has taken on its own identity now, where it's really
Oh,
not the
yeah.
internet. You know what I mean? I
100%.
think there's a
I
difference
agree.
between the internet and social media. Do you see that difference, or
I
am I just
do.
kind of
100%.
yeah?
Yeah.
And now the
Going
third
on
player's coming to
Google
the
is
party.
going on the internet and searching
Yes,
information. Going on social
yes.
media is wondering how other people feel about certain things, being influenced by the way in which people view the world and all of those things. And so you're absolutely right. It's taken on
Okay,
a life of its own.
and you can get even deeper, because there's some purists who would say, well, Google's not the internet, right? There's even a more raw version of the internet that you rarely get to see access to. And I think the third player, we're seeing the third character or the third guest at the party come in, and that's AI. And that's going to be a totally different thing, I think. So you're going to see AI, you're going to see social media, and then you're going to see the internet. And the internet's going to be like where the OGs hang out, like the raw,
Mm-hmm.
unfiltered stuff go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think AI, AI sources kind of from both of those. AI is pulling from social media and the internet, because AI only knows what AI is told, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're like, well, AI is learning on its own, but it's like, that's a
It's
paradox.
a
I think
data
its own, because
synthesizer right now. Sure.
yeah, how can AI know more than what is known of the known universe than of known of the, right? So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I don't want to get into that, but um, I think it's fascinating, Len. I think it's absolutely fascinating, because when you go back,
And I think what's happening so much more than I've ever seen it, Chris, is this divisive conversation on the left and on the right. There's not one party. They both do it. It's a nasty pigsty of conversations. And I feel that both of them feel like they have to do it because one side is playing dirty and both are playing dirty, but they call the other playing dirty. And if one gets clean and they start to act in a way where they go high in their rhetoric, they're going to get slaughtered. And so now it's this race to the bottom. And I think it's really bad for the direction of the country.
yeah, I think nobody knows how to have proper discourse.
Yes, I agree.
And again, I think it goes back to the fact that, again, we have an education problem in this country, and no one is teaching and educating children about civics.
Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing today in the streets is basic civics. This is basic civics. The United States federal government has the duty, not the right or the responsibility, to clean up the streets and control immigration in the country. I think the Greenland thing is fascinating, and I think I am even more on board today with my whole theory of Trump is completely dismantling the old world powers again and reshaping the world powers again.
The only way where I agree with you from the standpoint that we won't cease to be the world's economic superpower is if our technological productivity and AI makes us back into this net positive, productive super force.
Screw the NATO allies did. Because you know why? When the NATO allies go to the negotiation table and it's time to slap leather and pull out that pocketbook, they go, Can you come save us again like you did in World War I and World War II, Daddy, please? We are not going to be afraid of China in the next 10, 20 years because China will be one of our best allies. I guarantee you it.
The whole purpose of NATO is to create allies that are that create strategic advantages.
So I think one of the biggest hacks that I have found just in my life is that you have to create habits in your life that become lifestyle. They become part of your lifestyle, right? You can't just be on a diet. You can't just be on an exercise program or be in a gym program. You actually have to create changes in your lifestyle. It has to become part of you.
For me, I like to walk and I like to hike. So like today, this is how many steps I've taken so far.
Recruiting my kids into clean, healthy eating was probably one of the best things I did. And it shows it. I mean, my kids, I'm not biased. I'm not trying to be biased. I'm not looking at it as my kids. I'm so thankful because I look at them and I go, dang, my kids are way stout. They're way healthy because the diet's clean.
Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
So,
got it.
Everybody, if you didn't know, it's Len Cooper's birthday today. Say hi.
I turned 2010 today, man. 2010. So
if you go back and you look at stuff from 2010, like I was looking at inauguration photos of Obama and the transition between him and Bush. I was looking at it on social media or something. Yeah. And just to see it, the pictures look
so much, right?
The pictures look so old. It looks like you're looking at stuff from the 90s. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Yeah. But Obama looks like a kid standing next to Bush. Like there's a scene where Bush and him are walking next to each other and they almost have identical ties and suits on. Yeah. But low-key, Bush Jr. looks like the adult there and Obama looks like a child. Like it's crazy to see it. It's like, and then to see how Obama is today, you're like, dang, it's a drastic difference on how the White House changed him.
Yeah.
The White House changed him. I swear, you know what's going to be crazy? Donald Trump's hair gets blonder and thicker when he leaves the White House. Where most people get more gray and loose hair when they go to the White House. Like, when you see them all, like any person that ever...
We should sponsor this segment by Bosley.
Or Just for Men.
That's right. That's right. This section brought to you by Bosley and Just for Men.
You could do this. I'm not only a client. I'm not only a paid actor. I'm also a client.
That's right. That's right, man.
Well, it's good to be back to you today, Len, on this Martin Luther King Day today. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King Day. Obviously, it is a very important day for American history, anyways, to acknowledge obviously the suppression of a group of individuals, an ethnic group of individuals, obviously in America, and how important that is to recognize that, not just to continue, with that type of sentiment, but to remember the actions and remember the oppression, simply because the most important thing for remembering anything like that is not to give it attention, but to give it so that we understand the patterns and the habits so that we can avoid it happening again, right, in the future. Because if you don't remember history, that never happened. That never happened to black people. Black people were never slaves in America, right? And that's where people lose track of things, where they go, look, oh my gosh, slavery wasn't invented in America, but it definitely was a part of American history. And we can't forget what allowed us as a country to do it.
And I think to that point, you bring it up. It's a really good point, because what today signifies is the importance of fighting for a right that everyone should have. And sometimes when you fight for that right, sometimes you encounter resistance. Well, all the time you encounter resistance. And certainly Martin Luther King wasn't the first to do it. Frederick Douglass even said that no change in power comes without resistance. Those weren't his exact words, but that's essentially the sentiment. And so in any endeavor to have situations better, whether it's civil rights or working conditions or rights for anybody, sometimes you have to struggle and you have to resist. And, so today is a good way to remember the importance of that. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, man. Speaking,
Absolutely.
go ahead.
I was going to say absolutely, but I'm going to let you go first because it's probably going to be a little bit softer of a landing than what I was going to say. So I don't want to get straight to the...
No, I was gonna jump right over to ICE, man. I was going to say, speaking of resistance and fighting for rights, considering everything that's been going on in Minnesota with ICE and this increasing tension that you and I have been talking about, has anything happened that's made you reflect on what's been happening? What's been your overall feeling about the nature of the protests, the actions of ICE, the types of resistance that's been happening, and the other people within ICE saying, you know what? I don't know if we're doing the right thing. And other people saying, I don't really know if I really want to be a part of this because, police and law enforcement were there to be the good guys. And I feel like we're the bad guys now. And so there's been some pushback with regard to even joining them. So where are you at with everything?
I think it's fascinating. I think it's absolutely fascinating. And, we're going to talk about things that I think today we're going to talk about a couple of things that we're doing personally to improve in 2026.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to end the month of January without talking about that and specifically mentioning it on the podcast, just simply because that was a huge part of my life in coming up professionally. And I know it was a huge part of yours where that was always at the forefront. We were lucky enough to have very good mentors that, that taught us certain things like that, and I think that that's just a good thing. But for me, one of the biggest things is that I find fascinating is just being an observer and just observing what's actually going on. And one of the best, I was reminded today in just watching stuff today, Len, and then watching stuff over the weekend, I was reminded today on how, today we put a lot of hate on the internet. And I don't even say the internet. I'd say the internet is probably what we would describe as something that, in the beginning when the internet came, oh my God, the internet, because the internet was fun and it was awesome and there was just resources and it was all these great things. I would say more so now that it's like not the internet. I'd say more so it's like social media now, right? Because social media is a byproduct, obviously, of the internet, but I feel like social media has taken on its own identity now where it's really not the internet.
100%.
You know what I mean? I think there's a difference between the internet and social media. Do you see that difference, or am I just kind of
100%? Yeah.
And now
going
the
on
third player's
Google
coming to the party.
is going on the internet and searching information. Yes. Going on social media is wondering how other people feel about certain things, being influenced by the way in which people view the world, and all of those things. And so you're absolutely right. It's taken on a life of its own.
And you can get even deeper because there's some purists who would say, well, Google's not the internet, right? There's even a more raw version of the internet that you rarely get to see access to. And I think the third player, we're seeing the third character or the third guest at the party come in, and that's AI. And that's going to be a totally different thing, I think. So you're going to see AI, you're going to see social media, and then you're going to see the internet. And the internet's going to be like where the OGs hang out, like the raw, unfiltered stuff go, right? Mm-hmm. And I think AI, AI sources kind of from both of those. AI is pulling from social media and the internet because AI only knows what AI is told, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you're like, well, AI is learning on its own, but it's like, that's a paradox.
It's a data synthesizer right now, sure.
Yeah, how can AI know more than what is known of the known universe than of known of the, right? So it's like, it's just, I don't want to get into that, but I think it's fascinating, Len. I think it's absolutely fascinating because when you go back, this is one of the best things I think about the internet. The internet has the receipts of everything. The internet never forgets, and the internet has the receipts. And when you look at Bush Sr., when you look at Obama, and you look at Clinton, and you look at Trump has had the least amount of deportations out of any of those presidents. Has had least amount of, so far, has had, and by the way, he is on his second term, and he's still grossly not even close to any of his competitors. He's like 1.5 or 1.8 million or something to that effect, or billion, whatever the number is, 1.5 million, 1.8 million. And his competitors are in the double digits.
Okay.
So he's not even close. So Trump has the least amount of deportations out of any president of that I just mentioned. Bush Sr., Clinton, Obama, and Trump. Trump has the least amount of deportations and the least amount of ICE activity. In fact, I didn't know this, but Holman, the guy who's in charge of, he's not DHS sector. What is he charge of? What is Holman? He's the brash guy, the big brash guy, right?
Is he the border czar?
He's the border czar, right?
Yeah.
Did you know Obama awarded him the highest presidential administration medal that you could be awarded?
I did not know that.
During Obama's ICE raids and Obama's deportation agenda. So I think it's fascinating to see this right now. And the reason why I say it's fascinating is because under Obama, I keep forgetting the names here, Obama, Bush Sr., and Clinton, there were no protests and no riots. But yet under Trump, there's protests and riots. So I think it's just a fascinating thing to see. And what's crazy is that CNN was doing tag-alongs in 2016 with ICE agents saying, look at them, they're going out early to catch these illegals in Chicago because they got to do it early. And this is the day of the life of an ICE agent, like promoting it. I just find it fascinating that today it's a totally different narrative, but it makes sense to me why it happens this way. And it makes sense even more when we talk about a little bit about other things that are going on, because I think the Greenland thing is fascinating too. We're going to talk about that, but I think it's absolutely fascinating to see that. And that's just the biggest thing that has stuck with me, because it's like, why does Trump have all this pushback about immigration and deportation when he's deported the least amount of people, but yet is receiving the most amount of hate for it? It just makes zero sense to me. So from a pragmatic standpoint, I just find it fascinating, but then I get it because it's just this love affair with the dismantling of all the cartels. Trump is dismantling all the cartels and they're all angry about it. In the media, the legacy media is one of those cartels, and the legacy media for decades has been protecting the powers that be, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Bush Sr., Clinton, Obama, all of them. I think it started to really get weird again when I think it, and also too, to back up, to something we talked earlier, and I'll throw it back over to you, because we were talking about when was the last time the United States was successful at a war. The Gulf War was the last time we were successful at a war. We went in there and that was under Bush Sr. And I think that's when the United States started to shift a little bit and lose. And that's when wokery, I think, was starting to take over. Wokery took over when Bush Sr. left office, I think. And that was the last old guard of the old United States working order, which came down obviously through the lineage of Reagan and then through Eisenhower and all of those ones before it that came. So that is when the United States turned into the wokery of wokery, which is what we're seeing now. It started in the early 90s. I know that's a lot, Len, but just I didn't want to come. I wanted to dig deep on it because it's like, how do you explain that? I'm curious to know, because he's not doing anything different than any other president done. Oh, he's just violent about it. I'd rather know what I'm getting than not what I'm getting. Anyways, I just find it fascinating. I find it fascinating, but at the same time, I've been in the streets in a lot of metro areas since ICE has been deployed, and it feels safer to me.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So on the one hand, I agree that Trump is the president that has changed the course of saying the things that other people won't say out loud. So he's definitely that guy. Now, when you talk about the fact that he has the least number of deportations, you said it as if that's a good thing. And so he ran on this idea of increasing the amount of deportations, considering all of the negativity that he says that, the rapist and the bad guys are coming from all of these other countries. But it's so interesting that typically those countries that he points to are typically countries that are considered less than. But that's another conversation for another day. That's not what we're here to talk about. Him talking about deportations and the way that he's going about it, the main difference is that he's using ICE in a way where they're weaponized to be combative and confrontational. Now, there's always been a fox And even though during the Obama era, when the deportations took place, Fox had ample opportunities to cover the fact that there were deportations. But here's the problem, Chris, is that Fox was okay with all of the deportations that were taking place. So they had no gripe about it. And so if they were really about, and I'm talking they being Fox and legacy media that is for this idea of deportation. If they were really about the way in which humanity was treated, they could say, look, we like the fact that Obama is deporting people, but the way in which he's doing it is wrong. You know, he's putting people in these concentration camps. These agents are confrontational, combative. There was nothing about that. So one of two facts are true. Either Obama and Clinton did it better where it wasn't as confrontational, or Fox missed an opportunity and they failed to cover because it didn't fit their narrative. Their narrative is that we want fewer people coming into our borders. And if they're talking about a Democratic president who's actually effective at their job, it goes against the whole narrative. So here's what's happening. You have ICE and you have the National Guard that's being deployed by a president. And what's happening is that people who are put in office or put in these jobs to support the American people and the citizens, what's happening is there's all of this confrontation. And so what that tells me is that he being Trump has not been as effective and enacting the promises that he said he was going to do. Because to me, I think, look, there's no secret about the fact that he was planning on deporting large numbers of people. So we shouldn't be surprised about that. I think what needs to be done better, unless the coverage just wasn't there, is the nature in which people are being identified. Because right now what's happening is you have American citizens being profiled, and people who may look Latino or may look to be of the racial profile of the target of ICE, and then they're masked, and how they go about it, if it makes us feel like we're in more of a police state. So if these operations were happening behind the scenes and they weren't on video, and the interactions of these agents weren't as confrontational with people who aren't the bad guys, then I don't think there'd be as much of a backlash. So he's just gone about it wrong, or Fox didn't do their part when Clinton and Obama were in office to cover all of the atrocities that were happening. I don't know. Either way, there's a problem.
Well, I could see that. I could see where you're coming from. But my argument against that would be a few things, Len, and this is it. I don't think Fox would want to report on it because maybe it shines a positive light on somebody, and maybe that's why they don't want to report on it. But then I'm like, okay, well, if we want to argue at that point and Trump's not doing a good job, Obama obviously knew, and obviously Bush Sr. knew, and Clinton knew that was a good thing. And most Americans have never wanted an overburden of immigration. And I want to be clear on what I mean by immigration and deportation. So I'm going to clear that up.
Illegal immigration.
So maybe they did that. And they reported false numbers, because who can even trust if Clinton's numbers and Obama's numbers are even correct anyways? We can know, right? But I don't think that's the issue at all. I think what the problem is that Bush and Trump is just doing a very good job of sorting out those people. And by the way, he doesn't want to get rid of everybody and anybody who's Latino or whatever, all that stuff. I think that's media scaring people. It's very simple. I think he knows what the American people want. And that is, dude, if you are not a net positive to the country, and you're an immigrant here and you're not being a net positive, you have no right being on social programs for this long. If you're an immigrant here and you're illegal and you're not providing a net positive, like, you have no business being here. then don't. And that's what the problem is that illegal immigration, where people do not provide a net positive to their communities, they got to go, dude. They got to go. Nobody's going to argue against that and that's what Trump's saying. Look, if you're here illegally and you're not even providing a net positive to your community, I'm sorry, you got to go. You got to go. That's
okay.
what it is. And so lastly, to just kind of close it up, I think it has also to do with the fact that, if you look at the way ICE agents were dressed in the videos going back to 2016 CNN videos, they were dressed the same way. They were in the same tactical gear, rifles, all that stuff. So they were dressed and looked just as aggressive to me in 2016 during Obama's, presidency, during his watch, during his administration, as they were, I think, today.
I'd like to get some footage to see, because I don't remember, because
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. It's crazy.
And I'm not, and I'm not certain. I'm certainly not here to blindly just suggest that they didn't have the face coverings, because I really haven't heard a lot of conversation about them having guns and all of that. It's covering up of their faces. And so I would get you. Yeah, and I would give the same amount of energy if that did happen under Obama and Clinton, with ICE agents covering their faces, because I just don't like the idea of law enforcement concealing their identities, because typically
you're absolutely right.
But typically, we're able to talk to the officers and get their badge numbers and things like that. And so if that in fact were the case, I definitely want to find some video footage of that.
I can send it to you. I can send it to you.
Yeah, please.
What I think is a better question, Len, now that you brought that up, because I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking about it, is that maybe the bigger research is that do we go back and look? Because I don't think it's just the media's fault. It's never one thing, right? It's never one thing that's the cause of a big problem, which is what we're seeing right now, which is this lawlessness, this anarchiness, this pushback against this, right? Maybe this didn't exist at the scale that it exists in America today, but it is rampant, where you could go and see the exposés of people exposing career protesters.
I'm going to tell you what I believe it is.
People that get paid $70,000 to $80,000, sometimes $100,000 to go out and professionally protest and create problems for ICE. So
if that's true, I am not a fan of that at all.
Okay, it is true. It is,
and true. I'm not a fan.
Crazy true.
100%.
Just like now, you see Nick Shirley, the daycares, and they try to debunk, maybe he was lying about that and and the timing. You know what he's doing now is Nick Shirley now is exposing all these transportation companies that are listed as transportation companies in Minnesota, but are not. They're money service companies. So these companies are listed as transportation companies. He's going there and going, where's the transportation company? It's not. They're laundering money. Did you know the airport in Minnesota, it's the 17th largest airport in America. It's 10x the amount of cash leaving that airport than Atlanta, the busiest airport in America.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to put a bow on this ICE thing,
please,
because that's a different conversation, and I think it deserves the amount of research and energy, because to me, any type of fraud, regardless of who it's perpetrated by, is wrong, and it should be called out.
100%.
So I want to be on record for that.
Here's my issue, Len. At the end of the day, too, Len, before you say that, too, it's one thing that this all causes. It's another form of division.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest challenges that Trump has, and what's infected negatively his administration, is, you talk about division. When you demonize a group of people, it creates a backlash, and it creates a visceral response. So when you say, these people, their countries are hellholes, and, these people are, just, they're just the worst of the worst. They're animals and stuff like that. When you use words like that to take away their humanity as a group. Now, when you talk about an individual, talk about what he or or she did wrong, but using phrases like, oh, the left is domestic terrorists and things like that, that also stokes the fire of division. And so one of the reasons why you and I really feel strongly about this podcast, I know I can speak for you freely on this, is because you and I are very divided in terms of our perspective on different issues. We vehemently disagree with each other, but yet we're still able to have this civil conversation. Why? Because we take the time to listen to each other, because we respect each other. We like each other. And even though we disagree, we don't have to go and do clickbait, conversation, so we can only bring in a group of people that agree with with us, so that now we have to, create this whole echo chamber. No, we're having a platform where half of the people are going to disagree with everything that comes out of one of our mouths, right? For the most part. And so I think, but at the same time, we don't demonize each other. I don't ever say your take is dumb. You don't ever say my take is dumb. We can just agree to disagree and move on. And I think what's happening so much more than I've ever seen it, Chris, is this divisive conversation on the left and on the right. There's not one party. They both do it. It's a nasty pigsty of conversations. And I feel that both of them feel like they have to do it because one side is playing dirty and both are playing dirty, but they call the other playing dirty. And if one gets clean and they start to act in a way where they go high in their rhetoric, they're going to get slaughtered. And so now it's this race to the bottom. And I think it's really bad for the direction of the country.
Yeah, I think nobody knows how to have proper discourse.
Yes, I agree.
And again, I think it goes back to the fact that, again, we have an education problem in this country and no one is teaching and educating children about civics. Mm-hmm. What we're seeing today in the streets is basic civics. This is basic civics. The United States federal government has the duty, not the right or the responsibility to clean up the streets and control immigration in the country. And then and you're absolutely right, Len, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Look, Trump should take the higher ground, but the problem too remains still is that the opposition, and you can name names, some are worse than others, they don't play by the rules that you just described, which is don't say nice, don't demonize, don't say things. The Maxine Waters, Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, all these guys are guilty of doing the same. Crockett is nasty, dude. That is a nasty woman. She is nasty. Ilhan Omar is
but it's
woman.
On both sides.
She just
put
called
the same energy on both sides. They're both
absolutely.
Yeah,
she called a reporter
both
a
sides
retard.
Are guilty.
Ilhan Omar called a reporter on the steps of Capitol Hill a retard. If someone on the right would have called someone a retard, Len, a retard. That word doesn't carry weight anymore. So you're absolutely right.
But they do the same thing, bro. Like she's like, the person that shot Charlie Kirk is some tranny, and you hear it on both sides. And so I think we both have a responsibility to call out both sides because they're both guilty. Now, this is what I believe fundamentally. I believe there is Here's the issue that I had with politics pre-Trump. The issue that I had with politics is that there was a lot of doublespeak and people didn't say the truth. And it was, like you hear this term, they're being a politician, because politicians don't tell the truth and they have a really bad reputation of that. And so that was one extreme. I think what Trump did is he brought the other extreme, which was going way overboard and doubling down on things that were taboo before. And so I have a problem with both of those polar perspectives. I think there needs to be something in the middle where, one, you say it like it is, you say what you mean what you say, don't mince words, and at the same time, you shouldn't be demonized because you do that. But then on the other hand, you should not speak so badly about large groups of people in terms that are, that push them down and suggest that they're less than. And I think using that rhetoric is a problem. And I think both sides, they need to clean that crap up, because we gotta get better. And so I hope that you and I can continue to model with each other. And as our platform gets bigger, that other people can recognize, like, hey, have political discourse, talk about the things that are uncomfortable, and don't point the finger at somebody. Cause like I sent a text to somebody, and I got a reply back, and it was like, you're making judgments based on what it is that I'm saying because you place me in this box, but I don't fit in that box that you're placing me in. And so like when we have conversations, Chris, you don't automatically put me in a box. When I listen to you, I don't automatically put you in a box. Where we disagree, we talk about it, we call it out, and then we either say, you know what? I agree to disagree. Let's move on to the next topic. But I don't say, oh yeah, you're one of those righties, and you don't call me one of those lefties. You know, that's not rhetoric that's uplifting, and it's not rhetoric that's helpful. It does not make your position better, or it doesn't make my position better if I were to do it to you. So I think, having said that, man, let's go on and talk about Greenland, because, you know, we want to talk about, you know, autonomy. We want to talk about this idea of the United States and what its role should be with regard to NATO. When you think about the Danes and their relationship to Greenland versus the United States and their relationship to Greenland, what's on your mind about the latest developments that have been going on there?
Again, I think it's even more fascinating. I think it's more fascinating because it actually matters. Immigration, the issues with ICE, that matters. That's important, and I find that fascinating. Just because there's a lot of satire with that as well. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but there's just a lot of BS. Let's just call it that. There's a lot of BS with that whole situation, the way the optics are being framed. Yeah. But I think the Greenland thing is fascinating, and I think I am even more on board today with my whole theory of Trump is completely dismantling the old world powers again and reshaping the world powers again. And we talked a little bit about that last week, I think, or the week before. But it further makes me even think it's happening. And here's what I'm thinking. And here's why I'm thinking this. And I've done some more research and I've looked at it. Trump is starting to dust off and make America realize, maybe not make America realize, but is positioning America again the way it was in the 1920s and the 1930s. And that is that America knew, the American military knew the true threat to America was the British Empire. And it still is. And when you think about NATO,
whoa, okay.
When you think, this is weird, but when you're going to think about it,
there was an interesting statement.
And here's why: America had a contingency plan for war with the British Empire while using Canada as their proxy. Does that make sense? So in other words, what if we are at war and Canada is British Empire's proxy, right? Mm-hmm. We had a contingency plan for that. We had a battle plan. This
was in the 1700s. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. This is 1920s.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, prior to the Bretton Woods Agreement and all of that.
All that stuff, right? Okay. This is 1920s, okay? The reality here is this, okay? There's only one place where you can observe activity from, or we could stock nuclear submarines and all that stuff. And it's in Scotland, right? And Scotland hates the UK, by the way. Hated London, hated the British Crown. They always wanted sovereignty.
Very dark relationship.
Yeah, it's very dark. I have Scottish descent, so I'm very familiar with all of those things, right? It's why I bring it up all the time. I talk to people, does people understand what Prima Nocte is and what that meant for Scottish people of Scottish descent and all of those things with the British Crown. I don't want to get into that. Either way, that's so Greenland is very strategic in that that's a good space. So now the U.S. has bases, we don't have to rely on the British Crown. Because if the British Crown takes away that spot where we could park submarines there, where are we going to park our submarines at? In France's nuclear submarines, they're nuclear capable. And it's all about access through the north, the North Pole.
Right.
And China's building up in the north, Russia's building up in the north, all these are building up in the north. NATO is weak. NATO is weak. They're sissies, they're babies. But here's the crazy thing. If America comes in, America wants Greenland, and America takes Greenland for strategic reasons, and now you see Canada playing this little footsie game with China. Oh, we're going to scare America and all that stuff. we've dealt with having war with other countries with Canada as our proxy before. That's, oh my God, Canada's throwing Trump for a loop because now Canada could be a proxy for China. We've dealt with this before when we knew that the British Crown was the biggest influence. The biggest enemy to America is NATO. Because NATO drags America down. Yes, here's what.
Please explain that, because you threw out two zingers, man, and I need to understand. Yes. You talked about NATO Britain and NATO being the biggest enemies of the United States. Do you really mean that?
Not outwardly, and then maybe people go, "Oh my God!"
Please explain what you mean.
Because think about this for a second.
Okay.
Trump is dismantling 80 years worth of monarchy control over U.S. foreign policy. It's all Trump's doing right now. With the acquisition of Greenland, it kills monarchy control of American foreign policy. Canada is a monarchy. The UK is a monarchy. The Netherlands and Denmark, they're all monarchies. France is a monarchy. All these countries are still monarchies. And the original enemy to America was a monarchy.
I mean, because America was part of the, British,
whatever.
It was a British colony. So
we're sitting here. We're sitting here appeasing NATO, which is all majority monarchies. Screw their monarchy bullshit. So U.S. doesn't have to bow down to NATO's form. Well, like we release these videos, like KPG, Karine Jean-Pierre, Biden's press secretary, comes out on Nicolas Maduro when Nicolas Maduro stole the election and he has refused to let go of it. Blah, blah, blah. She goes on this whole speech about how we're taking aggressive steps. We upped the 20 to 25 million bounty and put the most visa restrictions ever of any administration because we followed can you guess what she said? We followed what did. Can you guess what she said? We followed what our NATO allies did. Screw the NATO allies did. Because you don't know why? When the NATO allies go to the negotiation table and it's time to slap leather and pull out that pocketbook, they go, can you come save us again like you did in World War I and World War II, Daddy, please?
Oh, man.
Except they don't want to be saved militarily. They want to be saved with the pocketbook because at the heart of all Europeans, they don't want to work.
Dude, wait, okay. Time out. Okay, you
That's
put a lot
my
out
2
there.
cents today for you,
brother.
Len.
You are on
Len,
one.
It just
You're on a
makes
heater
sense.
today.
It makes sense. Tell me it doesn't make sense.
No, bro. Like, okay. It's very
well then
easy.
If we're the big bad.
Finish,
fine.
Let me finish my thought.
Then fine.
Let me finish my thought. So
remind me to come back to leadership then.
I will remind you. I'm writing it down. Leadership.
Okay. Leadership. Now, who's the leader of NATO?
Here's the issue. It's not that. Okay, here's the thing. It's very easy to speak the way you're speaking, considering where the United States is economically and militarily. And when NATO was started, the United States was a rising power. The whole point of NATO coming together was for a coalition of countries to be allies against the opposition and from a military standpoint. And so that's why Russia is not part of NATO, because Russia is an Eastern European country that borders smaller European borders like Poland and Ukraine. And, but Ukraine wasn't part of NATO because they were part of the USSR at some point in time with, Kyiv and all of those different places, the Donbass region and all of that. Okay. So if the United States were not in a position of power to be the number one, had to have the number one military and also to be to have the world's reserve currency and to be the number one economic superpower, we wouldn't have the luxury to say NATO was a bunch of sissies. The reason why they reach out to the United States in their pocketbooks is because they don't economically have the same level of power. Now, where I will agree with you, Chris, is that NATO countries, just like human nature, has a tendency to take advantage of the benevolence of those that have power. Just like children have a tendency to take advantage of parents who have money and give it to them all the time. And the United States made a bad tactical decision to be so giving in terms of the money that they dispersed and contributed towards NATO. So the other point of agreement that I have with you is that Trump was right to call out those other NATO allies in his first term when he called them out for not contributing their fair share. Okay, but this time what's happening is that he's creating much more tension with our allies, and that really goes against the spirit of why NATO was created in the first place. I think there needs to be more diplomacy, and I'll finish my point and then you can jump in. I think there needs to be more diplomacy, but pressure, I would say, diplomatic negotiations. That's the way I'll put it. I think there needs to be more diplomatic negotiations seeking win-win opportunities for NATO, because there will be a time, maybe not in the next 10, 15, 20 years, where the United States will cease to be the world superpower, and China will take over as the world superpower. And when that happens, the United States will need the full power of the NATO forces when we're not as economically strong, so we can join forces to make sure that we keep the balance of power on the right side as we move forward, because the United States is on an economic decline and China is on an economic rise. And when those two instances change positions, our relationship with NATO will be more important than it has been in the last 50, 60 years. And so I think we need to be mindful of that. So
I totally disagree.
Okay. Tell me why.
I totally disagree. I got to go in reverse. Number one, I don't think here's the major caveat to America ceases to be the world superpower and reserve currency. Here's the big caveat. America will lose its supremacy as a world superpower and will lose its power as a world's reserve currency if America does not hold on to capitalistic and Christian values and moralities and ways of working. If America goes further away and doesn't course correct itself and go back to its Christian values and goes back to capitalistic values and roots, then yes. And here's why. China has been around a lot longer. China's been trying to crack this puzzle for thousands of years and they couldn't do it. America did it in 200 years. America did it in less than 200 years. America cracked the code instantly. Why? Because it was based on a constitution that governs human nature, which is the one thing that doesn't change. The Constitution of the United States is a genius living document because it is evergreen and ever evolving, even as it was written hundreds of years ago, because it governs the one thing that never changes, human nature. The medium may change, the technology may change, but the heart and the flesh will always stay the same. And China will never understand that unless China becomes a capitalistic country or a Christian country. Bar none. I'm sorry. It's never going to happen. Okay,
let me jump in real quick. Where I disagree, and I want you to jump in, because remember, you're going to talk about leadership. I told you I would remind you.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the point I want to jump in real quickly. I agree with you principally that Christian values and capitalism is a core and essential component of the United States identity. What I believe is the fundamental principle that will stop China from becoming the world superpower, which I don't think can happen and which I don't think will happen. It's not those two things. More importantly than those, it's productivity. And the moment the United States gave up all of its manufacturing dominance to China and sold it out. So because China reduced they artificially lowered the value of their currency so that exports would be heavily favored for China. And because the benefit for us is we're a consuming society and we have lots of money, so we can buy a lot more stuff for cheaper. And so because of that, it gave them this astronomical rise in productivity. And now they're so far ahead of the game as it relates to productivity. I don't believe we can catch them. The only way where I agree with you from the standpoint that we won't cease to be the world's economic superpower is if our technological productivity and AI makes us back into this net positive, productive super force. But you were going to talk about leadership, and go ahead and feel free to
keep backing it up.
I believe, yeah,
yes. Now here's again the fundamental issue that a lot of these countries don't understand. Otherwise, they would not be dictatorships and they would not be monarchies, and they would not be secretly, covertly working to dismantle the United States because they hate it. European countries hate the United States. And all other countries that are dictatorships or communist states or socialist states or whatever you want to call it, they hate the United States. Why? Because they cannot fathom the idea of a republic. They can't, because that creates power amongst the people. And all these other countries, power is still centralized. I'm sorry, but it is.
You don't consider Germany a republic? France? You don't consider Germany and France a republic?
I don't consider them a republic. Not in the sense
they're definitely not monarchies.
They're definitely not in this. They're definitely not in the sense.
They definitely have democratic.
Right. Now, I wouldn't loop France in there, but I definitely would put Germany as an outlier. And here's why. If you go back, and you're getting me off on a different subject here now, Len, with that. If you look at Germany and you look at the Austrian Empire and you look at that influence, the Austrian Empire is very, very interesting to study because the Austrian Empire was a bunch of different cultures. It governed a lot of different cultures under one different empire. So even though it was still kind of monarchy, but German and Austrian and all that culture, it makes a difference in an outlier in that. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. If America hadn't come in and superseded, and that was going to be my point earlier here to rebuff you earlier about the European Union, or not the European Union, NATO. Mm-hmm. If America hadn't come in World War I and World War II, would be Germany. It'd be Germany. So,
that's true.
I mean, yes, Germany is an outlier in a sense that Germany has a dynamic and a system that could potentially does work better than monarchies. Monarchies fail. Monarchies ultimately fail because power is too centralized, right? Just like socialism fails and communism fails because you can't have centralized power or centralized means of production. You need competition.
But that's what Europe is now. I mean, when you look at England, it's a hybrid. I mean, it's a monarchy, no doubt about it. But you still have parliament, like the King Charles doesn't have the real power. He's a figurehead.
Kick their asses out.
Know that.
Get rid of the ceremony shit. Kick them out. Why are you paying for all this crap for them? We paid for, well, not we. Well, yeah, we did. We did pay. We paid for Prince Andrew to be a pedophile. We did, because he's part of NATO. I'm sorry, we did. We funded NATO. He was in the military. It went there. I'm sorry, it is. But see, so the thing is going back to, yes, Germany could be that outlier, but China and all these other countries that don't understand is that true ingenuity and true capitalism drives so much faster than any type of control. And you're absolutely right. China does have an advantage right now. Most people go, look, China has engineered whole provinces and cities around manufacturing certain types of goods and services, right? If you need Lego bricks, you go here. If you need da-da-da-da-da. But here's where most people miss it. And I think this is something, and maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm out of it, whatever, but here's where we're missing it. China is invested in the old world. Because within the next 20 years, you will have micro-manufacturing. Manufacturing will take place in your home. Manufacturing will take place at the local grocery store. You will key your order in here, and within 24 to 48 hours, the product you want, the hard, durable, good product you want, will be waiting at your Amazon pickup at Whole Foods.
And
stuff
those
will
3D
not be
printers will be made in China.
No, they won't. Here's the thing. They won't be there. They
Yes,
won't. So you will have, fine, even if they are, that controls the macro side of manufacturing, the micro side, the part that counts the daily consumable stuff that where the raw goods are shipped to China and then China manufactures them and puts them together and ships them back. All of that will end. It's dead. It's done. That's the old world. Just like doing a resume and making money is changing right now. So when Elon Musk comes out and says, watch American GDP go to 18 to 20%, I'm a believer. Even if it's half of that, I'm a believer. I don't think anybody, and maybe you call me optimistic.
You mean 18 to 20 trillion? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, whatever he said it was going to grow by this astronomical percentage. I think it was percentages, right?
Okay.
Maybe I'm an optimist.
18 to 20%. Okay.
Maybe I'm whatever the case may be. I don't care what you want to label it as, but I don't think anyone has seen or even understands what's getting ready to happen because the full breadth and domain of the American spirit and American ingenuity is getting ready to be unleashed on the world, and the world is not even going to know it. And the last time the world saw something like this was World War II or World War I. And I don't mean it in a war way. I mean it in the fact that America is going to drop the literal economic, innovative ingenuity bomb on the world, and no one's even going to know what happened because Trump is dismantling the cartels. What president calls Elizabeth Warren and says, hey, can you help me with credit card caps? Because Trump's on this big deal about credit card interest caps. He's saying interest caps should be capped on credit cards. I agree, by the way. Interest rate at 33% for credit cards. Yeah. He's dismantling. And then he goes back and says, we have to dismantle the biggest threat, which Eisenhower warned of. And Eisenhower, by the way, is one of the most popular presidents, no matter what, bar none. And Eisenhower said, we cannot allow defense contractors to become money companies. And we've allowed these defense contractors under Obama, under Bush, under Bush Jr., under Clinton, under Bush Sr. We've allowed these military contractors to become money businesses, and now Trump's going in and capping these fools. That's another one of the cartels. Trump is cutting off the cartels, and the biggest cartel of them all is NATO. It's a big sap drain. And yes, we are not going to be afraid of China in the next 10, 20 years because China will be one of our best allies. I guarantee you it. I guarantee you it. Because realistically, when China and the U.S. get up in the morning and look at all the rest of the world, just like I said, they're going to get up at the rest of the world, Len, they're going to go like this. Bro, why do we need these guys? All they do is sit around and start wars and drink wine and cry about their monarchies all day long and poetry. What do we need these? China's going to go, bro, they're squeezing me on this side. And the U.S. is going to go, bro, they're squeezing me on this side. And then China's going to go, well, why don't I just put my elbow out and then U.S., you put your elbow out and then we'll just meet in the middle. And that's what's going to happen. And
I've never seen China as an adversary. I mean, like, I think
as an ally? As an ally? Why not?
No, I've never seen them as an adversary.
I don't think they're an adversary either. I don't. Yeah. Now China steals IP and they don't play by the rules and they do all this crap and they have genocide going on with the Muslim population in a province in China and all the Uruguay. They have all
I'm saying direct, like, I'm not saying when I don't see China as an adversary. Yeah. I'm not suggesting that I agree with the atrocities that happened there and, you know, the fact that so many people are on surveillance and all of those things. I don't mean it like that.
No, that's bad.
I'm just saying,
that's bad.
Yes. I'm saying, like, I've never looked at them as, you know, like they are technically an existential threat. I'm just saying that I've never really looked at them like that because there really has never been any direct military tension, so to speak, like where we were concerned with going to war with each other, right? Whereas with Russia,
just with who?
We were very, very close. I mean, when you look at the Bay of Pigs, when Kennedy was in office, we were, I mean, if cooler heads wouldn't have prevailed, humanity could have ceased to exist, you know, without.
But who shut it down? Who shut it down ultimately?
Well, I think both did, honestly, because when you look at Kennedy and also the Russians, they both exercised great restraints because
but who ultimately shut it down though?
Who do you think? Because I know who shut it down. I'm saying that it was both sides.
It didn't even happen. Kennedy was gone already by the time it fully got shut down because we were in a Cold War. All of that stuff. Who shut it down?
No. I'm talking about when you talk about. I think what you're talking about is Reagan ending the Cold War. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when the nuclear warheads were. We were in DEFCON, I think 3. Yeah. So
they were doing drills.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. So Reagan, he had nothing to do with that. I'm talking about Kennedy as a decision maker in real time, and the Russian leadership who were making decisions in real time. Like there was almost like a game of chicken at that point, and had both sides said, okay, let's just take a chill. Let's take a beat. Let's think this through. Let's communicate. Let's let cooler heads prevail. There could have been a nuclear holocaust. And
that gets back to my point of leadership.
He exercised phenomenal leadership.
100%.
Tell me what you were going to talk about with leadership, and then I want to close out with the hacks that we're doing health-wise in 2026.
Here's what it boils down to. Leadership. Who's the leader of NATO?
I don't know, actually.
America's the leader of NATO. America. How is America not?
Okay.
We provide the most money. We provide the most military. We
de facto, yes.
Okay, fine. So then when the leader of the big dog, the alpha, which is America, calls a shot, why do we get all this grumbling from these guys? Why don't they just in tow go, got you, sir, and make a move? Why do they go, I don't think we should do this. I think we should just be more parliamentary and more. Screw that crap. You mean what you want to do is make your deals in the background. Like when Trump is talking to this guy, I can't remember what country it's at, but this guy is asking for protection from America, but yet they're buying oil from Russia. So they want protection from Russia, but they're buying oil from Russia. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Leadership. That's why NATO is a cesspool. So when America comes in and says, we're the leader, we're calling a shot, we need to clean it up, NATO should just go, yes, got you, sir. Because here's the thing. They didn't mind our coming in and doing what America did during World War I and World War II. They didn't mind any of that stuff when we did that. Of course. Why?
We provided protection I mean, Mark Rutte, that's the name that I was looking for. Mark Rutte
got you.
Is the leader, Secretary General of NATO right now. And they rotate people, of course. So,
and who elects
I wanted to put that out there.
Oh, I get it. It's a vote. And there's more what? There's more monarch countries throwing a vote in than there are non-monarch countries throwing a vote in.
He's a Dutch politician, by the way.
Of course. Oh, my God. What do the Dutch make? Pretzels and boats? Come on, dude. Len, who do you want to be calling it?
But the whole point of allies is to have different levels of power. The big dogs have to protect the little dogs, man. Like
okay, but guess what? The big dogs in Russia and the big dogs in China and all the aggressive countries in the world, they're the top dog, not the weakest country. Like for example, China's not going to the bottom rung leadership and going, you know what, Xi Jinping, you step out of this for a second. We'll let the smallest country negotiate out America. Hell no, dude.
I understand.
Let's send the Secretary General of NATO. Who's he from? Denmark. Bro, are you kidding me? Russia just has to deploy its dogs there and take Denmark out. Like, seriously?
But that's the whole point of NATO, bro, is that when you attack one NATO country, you attack everybody.
For who? Who? Who's the benefit? For them, not America. We get dragged into their wars. So that's exactly why Zelensky wants to be in part of NATO, because he does. So America gets dragged into war with him.
Of course, but let's say you're the leader of France, or you're the leader of, Denmark or Sweden, or, these other NATO countries. Your perspective would be totally different. The reason why you can speak like this, Chris, is because you are part of America. You didn't do anything to earn that. You didn't do anything to deserve that place. You just got lucky, man. And saying,
I get it, but wait a minute, hold on. That's like saying America didn't earn its right to have some privilege right now with what it's done in the last century, the last two centuries.
That's not what I'm saying. That I understand your argument, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, Chris, is that because you are in a position when you are in a
But
position of power, your perspective is different. The whole purpose of NATO is to create allies that are that create strategic advantages.
Okay.
The United States is separated by water. If they didn't have strategic advantages with NATO, with other NATO countries, they wouldn't be able to have bases in those other places. And so the United States would not have gained its superpower status without the benefit of those other allies. And so that we have,
we didn't need them before. We didn't need them before World War I and World War II.
Okay, so when we go and we just did military strikes in Syria, where did those planes fly from? They sure didn't fly from the United States. They're
from countries that we have CAFAs with.
Okay, so my point is there's got to be strategic alliances because
there is. Saudi Arabia is a strategic alliance of ours.
That's the point.
We should kick France out.
NATO is also just a strategic alliance. So you're just putting value on the different strategic alliances. That's all I'm saying. Okay, we can argue this point till the cows come home, man. Bro, you've been looking good. You've dropped some weight. You've kept it off, and you've been able to, to keep it off, man. So in 2026, right now, we're halfway through the first month. This is the time when people start, leaving their diets. They were gung ho at the gym because they made their New Year's resolution, and now it's week 3, and now they're hungry and tired, and they're ready just to move on and go back to business as usual. What were your decisions that you made in 2026, and what's allowed you to stay consistent with the way in which you've changed your lifestyle over all these years?
So I think one of the biggest hacks that I have found just in my life is that you have to create habits in your life that become lifestyle. They become part of your lifestyle, right? You can't just be on a diet. You can't just be on an exercise program or be on a gym program. You actually have to create changes in your lifestyle. It has to become part of you. And, when people say, oh my, I started on a health journey. I'm 44 right now, and I started on a health journey it was 2017 is when I started, beginning of 2017. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was doing very good in business. I was crushing it. And I just looked at myself and I said, who are you right now? Like, who are you? Because you just saw it. It was like, right? And I started to get very in tune with nutrition and physiology. And I'm 44 and I take no pills. And just as a matter of exercise, Len, since you talked about it, right? Mm-hmm. It's actually going out there and doing the right things and creating lifestyle. Now, here's the biggest thing where most people lose sight of this, I think. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that is that they try to do all of this stuff, right? Like, I got to get on a Mediterranean diet. I got to get on a low carb diet. And they try to go too extreme. Mm-hmm. And what you got to figure out is what works for you. So for me, 100%. I don't like going to the gym. I don't. Mm-hmm. I get no motivation. It's not motivating for me. And by the way, I'm one of those people who can push through without motivation. I'm very disciplined, but I don't like it. It just. Mm-hmm. But what does motivate me about going to the gym is I like the sauna. I like the wet sauna. I like the hot sauna, and I like the stationary bike. So for me, I go to the gym to get on the stationary bike, go to the rowing machine, and then I go to the hot sauna and the wet sauna. That's it. That's all I use the sauna for, or I all use the gym for. I don't go there to lift weights. I don't go there to do any of that stuff. None of it. Now that works for me. So now I love going to the gym. I like going to the gym just because I enjoy it. Because I've made it part of my lifestyle, right? But I also didn't take all of the things I hate about the gym. I only took the things I liked about the gym. That's it. And additionally to that, I do that with exercise routines. So, you can go online, you can see this guy that gives all these routines, or these gals that give all these routines. I just study them and I do them, and then I keep doing the ones I like that are fun for me, or areas that I like. So it's about finding things that you enjoy and making them part of your lifestyle, right? That's what's key. So that, like, some people, how do you do 150 push-ups a day? I don't do them all at one time. I do 150 push-ups throughout the day. I do some in the morning. I do some at night. I do some in the afternoon. Usually for me is I don't eat, until a certain time of the day. I time restrict. I intermittent fast. So as soon as I eat, or as soon as I get up in the morning and I get out of bed, I do my first set of exercises. Through the midday or after I eat my first meal, I do my second set of exercises, which is usually my biggest meal. And then at the end of the day, before I go to bed, I do my last set. And that's how, and I've incorporated that, just like you gave me a video the other day. And it was like, don't eat, I've completely changed my eating windows now, where I eat eat earlier in the day, and I eat, which means I stop eating less in the day. So for me, one of the biggest things, Len, has just been making things part of your lifestyle. Instead of just trying to join a gym or a club, like join something or be part of something that's going to change your lifestyle, the way you operate on a day-to-day basis, not just something you add. So many people are obsessed with adding to your life. Take stuff away and get back to baseline neutral zero, the way you were when you came out of your mama's womb.
Yes, I like that. I would say for me,
you, sir,
there's a lot of different things, and I can definitely piggyback and restate everything you said. But like for me, I don't like going to the gym. I did it for 2 years and I hated it. And because I was older and I have a torn labrum and things like that, it's just, I felt pain all the time, and my nerves and my back. So I'm sure that a gym bro that watches this would say, "Oh, well, you're doing your exercises wrong and stuff like that." Well, I'll listen to you when you're telling me that at 60, and I agree that for some people, going to the gym is the right thing to do. It's because they like it. And so all I'm going to do is reiterate what Chris is saying. If you like going to the gym, that's awesome. Do that. That's great. For me, I like to walk and I like to hike. So like today, this is how many steps I've taken so far.
Wow.
Right?
21,866. Holy moly. That's a lot.
Yesterday was my rest day. But then the day before, I'll go to the day on Friday, I took that many steps, 21,000.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, like it's on average. I'm taking.
What's your daily average? What's your daily average for the year so far?
Okay, my daily average for the year is 19,200
a day.
Yeah.
Bro, I walk a lot, and I'm not even close to that.
but what I do is I habit stack, like you talked about. So what I'll do is I'll go, as I'm walking, I'm checking my email, I'm making my phone calls. Like all of our conversations on the phone, where am I? I'm walking. Every podcast prep conversation we have, almost without any exception, is I'm out walking. I do my business calls while I'm out walking. I check my emails while I do that. So I habit stack because I have my phone with me. I can do virtually anything unless I'm putting together a project. And so a couple of things that I've done. So what I did is I stopped eating 4 hours before bed, so that's a new decision that I decided that I'm going to stick with. Because what I would do is I do intermittent fasting as well. My window is typically 12 to about 8. Okay. But I typically go to sleep at around 10. So what I recognize is, after I was doing some more research and learning, I need to make sure that I don't put any food in my system 4 hours before bed, because at nighttime we become more insulin resistant. And because, our circadian rhythm starts to kick in and our body starts to metabolize differently at nighttime, I had to take that into account. So I stopped that 2026. I wasn't doing that before. And then the other thing that I did is I started improving my food selection to increase the mass of food that I eat, but also at the same time, decrease my hunger. So for example, before, what I would do is, I would eat spaghetti in a way where I have mostly protein, but I would still put a little pasta in it. So now what I do is I'll take zucchini and I'll make that my pasta. So then I can eat as much of that as I want. So after the meal, I'm not hungry anymore. right? And so like, I do lots of eggs. So, but then I've decreased the amount of cheese that I put in. So I can still have the mass, because cheese doesn't really add extra mass, but it does add extra calories. But with the extra eggs, then, and I put more meat in it now I decrease or increase my satiety. And so the other thing that I started doing as of 2026 is now, I make it a point to walk 10 to 15 minutes after every meal. So in addition to my walks in the morning, I usually get that out of the way by 8 o'clock. Now, after every meal that I eat, whether it's I take a walk, because I want to, increase my body's ability to be insulin efficient and to burn calories the right way and metabolize my food. And then, when I was on my weight loss journey, one of the things that I would do is I would have one cheat day so that I wouldn't fall off the wagon. So now that I've hit my weight loss, goal, now I incorporate 2 cheat days. So I'll do a cheat day, like for example, today's my birthday. And so because of that, man, I have a little thing where I can go. So I'm going to Starbucks, I'm going to Krispy Kreme, I'm going to Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm just getting all the freebies, man. I'm going around and getting the freebies just because I can.
You're making the rounds today, baby. You're making the rounds.
Absolutely. Exactly. And so today, I'm going to live it up, but I planned it. So, the other days that I walked a little bit extra, I restricted a little bit more. So then I don't wake up tomorrow feeling guilty for splurging. And now I don't feel this, because what happens is a lot of times the reason why people fall off the wagon, Chris, is because they start to calorie restrict, and it works. But the problem is that the hunger hormone called ghrelin becomes way more powerful than willpower. It's just a matter of time, because what happens is once people hit their goals, then they go back to the old eating habits. And now, I'm back as heavy as I was, or more heavy, because I just, didn't keep the discipline. And then the last thing that I do is that on my non-cheat days, what I do is I eat my very last carb by 2 o'clock. So like, let's say, for example, I decide to have an apple or a banana or some type of fruit. Because a lot of times people on keto, they don't eat fruit. And I don't agree with that, because you've got to get your macronutrients in, and you've got to make sure that you're feeding your body the right things. It's not just about losing weight and keeping it off and being in a state of ketosis. It's also about getting the right macronutrients. So when I combine the walking and then the walking after the meals on my non-cheat days, I'm done eating carbs by 2. So I've got the rest of the time to go from 2 o'clock all the way to noon on the next day. So I go 22 hours a day without carbs, if you think about it, because even though I have my last meal at 6, I'm not eating another carbohydrate until noon the following day. So those are things that I've been incorporating as of 2026, on top of just the overall general idea of high protein, overall low carbs.
And that makes sense for you, because in a sense, you're saying you're restricting total carbohydrate intake for a certain amount of time, where my approach is totally different on carbohydrate intake, where I'm just low carbohydrate intake all the time. Mm-hmm. I try to stay under 50 a day. Most days I'm at 20. Okay. And on good days where I feel really good, and I feel like, I know the days where I'm like, damn, I'm only at like 10 to 15 today. You feel it. You're like, you feel really good. So yeah, no, I think, and a lot of what I'm hearing too, and I'm listening to you, Len, is just like, you're incorporating these things. Like I said, the biggest thing for me was just lifestyle, like lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Another big thing for me that I've started doing and really getting serious about for me in 2026 is stretches. Just understanding stretches, like squats. I've got it now to the point where I could do a resting squat fully with my feet fully flat on the ground. I don't know if you know, and it's the natural human resting position where you're in a squat without your
feet
back
are
against
like
the wall.
this. Yes.
Yes. And I'm sitting here talking to you like this, back up. And I'll tell you, it took me about 60 days to retrain my back muscles,
core,
my hip muscles, my hips, right? To be able to open and position that. Now I can sit and carry a conversation, eat a meal with you without my hands being up like this in a resting squat. So stretches have absolutely been a massive thing that I've incorporated in the first 19 days. I started doing it at the end of last year, but I really made a commitment to this year. Stretches have been absolutely insanely crazy. I never ever thought like, you know, you have some back pain every now and then if you lay down too long or whatever. I have no back pain. Why? Because hamstring stretches get rid of back pain. You know, hamstring stretches. It's like crazy. You're like, oh, I'm good. I stretch my hamstring. I'm like, oh my God, man, this hurts, right? So stretches has been a big thing for me. And then also is understanding for me for 2026 is becoming more emotionally intelligent. So I'm doing a lot of research and a lot of introspective analysis for myself is just becoming more emotionally intelligent. So I'm reading a lot on emotional intelligence right now. And then also for me, another big productive change for me was reinventing yourself again, going back and taking away some things that you didn't like, that you developed last year, and cleaning kind of the trash out. And then taking some things that you liked from last year and adding to those and inventing yourself in a new way again. Right.
I like that.
And going in there and being deliberate about it, being deliberate about going and taking out the trash, right? Because we rely so much on our bodies to take out the trash for us that we don't even know what they're doing for us. So be responsible about taking the trash out up here, you know, and in your daily life and your function. And
I like that. One of the things that I do, just to piggyback on that point about just doing an analysis, what I do every year is on December 31st, I'll take a letter and I'll write it to myself and I'll seal it. And then what I do is from the previous year, after I've written the letter, I go to that one and unseal it. And the things that I write about is what's important to me, what's on my mind, what keeps me up at night, and what improvements do I want to make, both personally and spiritually and business wise and physically. And so then I go and reflect and say, oh, you know, because I don't want last year's letter to influence this year, because, you know, my mind might be in a completely different place. And then I go read and I'm like, oh yeah, that was important to me. Oh yeah. Okay. Check mark on that. Got that one. Ooh, I need to refocus on that one. So it's a really cool exercise because I enjoy going back and looking at the letters, you know, because I used to journal regularly. I would say I do that a whole lot less than I used to, but that letter really is something that works well for me.
I used to do letters, and I stopped doing letters in 2016. And I started doing videos. And what I mean by that is I just do a selfie video of myself. And I do it at the end of the year, but or not at the end of the year, I do it at the beginning of the year. But it's like the end of the year. It's like usually around the first or the second. And I'll do kind of that exercise of what you're saying. But I will always do it when I'm making big decisions throughout the year. And I remember I did it one time when I decided to make a shift from one philosophy in business to another philosophy in business. And this is 2016 when I fully sold out to it and I made a video of myself doing it. And I always like to go back. And I think it's important. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't even thinking about it because I've been doing it for so long, is that you forget where you were and what you were going through and what was on your mind and what was shaping you and influencing and where your life was at a lot of given times in your life. And you just keep laying day to day that you can forget, right? You can forget like where you were at and what you were thinking, what you were doing, what your goals were, just simply because you just get tied down with the day to day. It's so key. And I'm glad you brought that up because you do need to sit and have time to reflect. It's not a secret as to why men in the past had rooms in their houses or their castles called studies, right? And I never understood that. And that's men need to study. Men need to go away from the noise of everything, even their wives and their children, and they need to go study because it's their job to go to war every day, so to speak, right? Theatrically speaking, satirically speaking, because you do, men. If you're in a traditional sense and you believe in the traditional sense of household, which you and I are proponents of that, I'm not into the 50-50 culture. What do you bring to the table? What do I bring to the table? Any of that stuff. I think men and women, both have their roles in the house, and they should both take those roles in a house if you decide to live that way. If you don't, whatever works for you, right? If that doesn't work for you,
I don't judge you. You don't judge me, right?
I don't judge you, right? Again, but traditionally, when you look at people, when they have traditional science and chemistry and psychological backed rules and principles, which is men do certain things and women do certain things, and they're happy when they complement like that. If you're living in that sense, traditionally, when men are doing the men roles that biologically, physiologically, psychologically they are geared towards, and women are doing the exact same, and you come together in unison, you can't argue the data statistically always shows those types of people are most successful, most happy, most triumphant, most whatever in life. That works for me. It does. It works for me. Right. And I understand that role. So I think that men need to do that. Just like, women have their own men have their own, and men forget about that. And it could be just like as simple as this. And, people will probably watch this and they go, oh my God, Chris is so crazy all the time. And he must have high blood pressure, but this was just down. I was doing the podcast, Len, 107, 62, 69. See? So 107 over 62, 69. Gentlemen, your top number should not be 120. It should be in the teens. Preferably, I like mine in the non-double digits on the second number.
But you're talking and you're engaged, so of course your blood pressure is going to be a little higher. I have a question for you. So let's wrap up with a different way. We didn't talk about this, but I'm really interested to hear yours, and I'll say mine first. So what, as it relates to diet, do you still struggle with from time to time? Because one of the things that I really want to do is I want to be authentic. And, sometimes there's areas in our lives that maybe, we don't have it always buttoned up all the time. Yeah. And so I would say for me, it's one of the things that I have intended to do in the past that I haven't done well is curate my environment as it relates to food. So what I mean by that is if you go and look at my pantry, there's still, processed foods in there. Cause, there's other people in my family, there's, every now and then somebody will buy sweets and bring it into the house, and I'm going to eat it when I see it. And so I haven't yet built up that strength where, like I say, I have 2 cheat days, but if there's something that's particularly good and it's a non-cheat day and I know it'll be gone within the next day or two, I'm going to eat it. And so I definitely struggle with that. Is there any area diet wise, that you struggle with from time to time?
Absolutely. I absolutely love fried carbs and sweets. I want to go eat I just want to go eat cheese fries right now. Like I just want to eat nasty cheese, or I want to go eat ice cream. For me, it's ice cream or chocolate. I love it. Okay. But what I have found is good ways to mitigate that is, number one, I try to recruit, right? So I've recruited all of my kids and all of my, family, my household into clean eating. So everyone in the house, by and large, eats clean. I'd say my house is probably 80% clean, non-GMO, organic, non-ultra processed. I'd say we're at that. It took me about 2.5, 3 years, but now my kids, they won't even eat nasty stuff. Like, they'll eat Pringles here and there. They've got their things here and there, but that has helped a lot because having kids, I have a lot of them. It's so easy to fall off the wagon because you're going to eat what they're eating.
Yeah. Pizza, it's all around
all this crap. Yeah. It's all around you. So recruiting my kids into clean, healthy eating was probably one of the best things I did. And it shows it. I mean, my kids, I'm not trying to be biased. I'm not looking at it. My kids, I'm so thankful because I look at them and I go, dang, my kids are way stout. They're way healthy because the diet's clean. That was number one. Number two is I try to encourage, or I try to make things at home now instead. So for example, I like cookies, right? I love cookies. I want to eat cookies. So now instead of me eating cookies, I know I can make chocolate chip cookies at home with organic, unbleached, non-GMO, rice flour, or
you can
bread
use
flour.
Monk fruit or honey.
Even at that, I'll use organic cane sugar or organic brown sugar. So I try to get the ingredients, even though there's sugar in it.
You eat what you enjoy, but you know that at least it's clean and organic. Yeah, that's good.
So for example, you can make a homemade chocolate chip cookie will just absolutely knock your socks off with organic, unbleached, unprocessed bread flour, organic dark chocolate chips, non-GMO. Everything's organic, non-GMO. Organic vanilla extract, organic grass-fed butter, organic organic cane sugar, not white sugar, organic cane sugar is a little brown, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then organic brown sugar, some organic nutmeg, 5, 6, 7 ingredients, and they're all organic, non-GMO, and you know where they all came from.
And what I like from scratch. Yeah, what I like about that is that by making it from scratch, you have to really want it, and you're not taking the lazy way to go and eat it. So if you really want it that bad, it's like, okay, the rule is if I want it that bad, I've got to make it from scratch. And that's
what I say, Len, when I say incorporating things into your lifestyle, because not only am I getting a chance to cheat and eat a chocolate chip cookie or a brownie or an apple pie, which is what I love because I love desserts like that, but I know I'm figuring out in my head how to make it.
Yeah.
So not only that, I'm growing in an area where I now am culinary because I know how to make my own desserts and my own food. And what do you have? You probably have a list there.
Those are all different foods that I enjoy that are all like organic and also made from scratch, but it's foods that I like to eat, but made in a healthy way. So like it might be a cookie that incorporates, a certain type of protein powder, or, made with berries and raspberries with cheesecake. So you've got, the cottage cheese and, all of that stuff. And so, I still enjoy eating. I love eating, but I also want to make sure that I put good things in my body. And so, so I agree with all of that. So Chris.
And if I'm going to eat fast food, I only eat one fast food, and it's In-N-Out, and that's it.
Okay.
It's the best quality fast food. So if I'm going to eat fast, I will not eat fast food, Len. I'll only eat In-N-Out. That's my only fast food cheat. So I get it. I understand too. In-N-Out, because In-N-Out is all controlled supply chain, local. Like In-N-Out is the cleanest you can get if you're going to eat.
Is it fast food?
Yeah, the only gripe I have with In-N-Out is they still use sunflower oil, and that's a seed oil. So, and that's a big hack too. If you're looking for simple things to do, you put that video you show me. It's just they're so easy. Don't eat seed oils.
Yes,
just stop eating seed oils. So, with that, I know, Len, we can go on and on. We're out of time.
No doubt. It's been good, man.
Close us out.
So, look. The whole idea of this channel is we want you to get value. We want you to think. We want you to be critical. And you can also be critical of the thoughts and opinions we have, because we don't proclaim to be journalists. We're just simply two business owners that have different political views and different points of view. And we also, have things in common too, because as we get to know each other and we look past our differences, we know that what we have in common is our love for Christ. We also have in common our love for family. And we also have in common that we want to be longevity biohackers that live a good quality, vivacious, life with vitality. And so we can come together on that. And when we disagree, we can be respectful of our disagreements and still hear each other's point of view and really get value from each other. And so if that's something you value, definitely give us a like, subscribe, comment, interact. And we look forward to continue to bring you good content and good value. Chris, it's always been great, man. Anything that you want to say in closing?
Nope. Respect to you, Len. Have a phenomenal week, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Have a good one, sir.
Take care.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.